Hello everyone, this is Yahweh. Right now I am on a boat sailing south out of the Indian Ocean into what's commonly called now, I guess, the Southern Ocean. About halfway between the island of Madagascar and the continent of Australia. Further south there's a couple of islands that I'm on my way to visit. One I believe they call the French and Southern Antarctic lands or something. And then the two that I'm going to right now, or hope to be arriving to today, the Heard and McDonald Islands. A long time ago on your planet, on Earth, the planet that I refer to typically as Delta Sol, the rotation of your planet, the magnetic field, was in a different alignment, and continents that are now warm were cold, and vice versa. That's really the only way to simply explain it. It wasn't some mass upheaval of plate tectonics that changed this. It's simply the fact that at times your planet, typically during periods of galactic alignment, like that which will take place at winter solstice, December 21st, in the Gregorian calendar 2012, cause the core of your planet that is rotating, and also this soft inner magma, and then of course the crust on which it sits, to shift a little bit, each one respectively, their rate and speed and direction of their respective rotation, and it creates friction in times of upheaval here in the atmosphere where we exist. And so it's important for people to understand that there are going to be places on Earth, many places, that will be considered safe during what's coming. I can tell you right now, you don't want to be near any low-lying elevations in the next 2 years, if you can help it. I don't mean to incite mass panic or anything by saying that. I just mean, as I've spoken of before, have you and yours an evacuation plan, a plan set up beforehand to prepare for a potential natural or otherwise disaster. It's just prudent, it's just common sense. Now, as we head south near these islands, underneath these islands is the remains of a great nation, that which in most of your lore seems to be referred to as Lemuria. Lemuria was a civilization that was very advanced. They existed on your planet before certainly I was here, and the closest I guess I know of first-hand account would be what Locare has spoken to me of during his time on a continent that met a very similar fate. You'll have to forgive me, I'm a bit seasick today. We've been through some very rough waters the past couple of days, and it's difficult sometimes to gather one's thoughts and put these things together. But I've been thinking a lot about this continent that exists, or this large island, it's not a continent, that exists underneath the waters in which we now sail, and some of the history that I've heard about it. Now, this was a very advanced culture on Earth of humans, Homo sapiens, who existed, by all accounts that I've read, in Earth time between about 12 and 14,000 years ago. They started up after the end of the Fourth Age and the beginning of the Fifth Age, and they existed for about 8,000 of your Earth years on this island that was dry at the time. It was a very large island. The polar ice caps were larger, and the Antarctic ice cap was not so near dead center South Pole as it is today. Antarctica, in the coming years, folks in the scientific community, I spent some time at McMurdo Station in 2010, a wonderful place, and the scientists with whom I spoke, who are using your technology to look beneath the ice, are fascinated at the possibilities of what's underneath there. Because of the weight and the mass of the ice, the actual land itself has been compressed. And underneath Antarctica, I can tell you, lie treasures and of both monetary and archaeological value that right now you can only dream of. But under this particular body of water through which we now sail lies the remains of a very great civilization. They were very technologically advanced, but they had also learned very much how to live in harmony with the earth. They kept to themselves in that they were an isolated empire. Would empire be the correct word to use? A society, civilization. But they didn't welcome visitors. They did not make it known to the rest of the world their precise location. People knew about it, of course, but it was not... they went out amongst the other people that existed on your planet at that time and established relationships for trade. They knew, because they were excellent at navigating your oceans, they knew very efficient routes to take. Much like nowadays, I always find it almost disquieting when I'm on a boat. Everyone now is guided by a geo-positioning system. They operate almost completely off computer, and it's quite handy for them. They know exactly where they are on the planet at any time. They can see through their satellite imagery potential storms and bad weather coming towards them. Now, we had to go through what we went through. They said, don't worry about it. It's not that big a storm on the satellite image. And I've grown to become distrustful of your satellite weather predictions as someone who travels your planet on a frequent basis. It's always amazing to me how little you understand about weather's quantum nature, yet how quick some societies, some governments right now are in jumping into the pool in this idea that you can somehow manipulate weather to your advantage, to something that will benefit you. Every time there is a cloud seeding in China, weather patterns across the globe are impacted. My good friend, the fourth of my party, Sun Tzu, speaks out against this in China on a regular basis. He's fortunately in such a position of power within that country that he is able to do such things, speak out. But there are many, he tells me, who in the Chinese culture believe that something, I guess, that was passed down perhaps from Mao, that they would very much like to control the earth. It's a matter of pride, I guess might be the English equivalent way of putting it. The Three Gorges Dam that's being built in China right now is affecting the rotation of your planet. It will affect eventually the axis. The realignment is going to change the axis somewhat. That Three Gorges Dam has the potential of being an an unknown variable in the equation that scientists from Nibiru and other planets have prepared what we know about what is to come as far as the changes on your planet. We have provided this to people in positions of power in the hopes that they can not change what's going to come, because the technology does not exist anywhere to change what is going to happen to your planet. Surely you must understand that the technology involved in just the physics alone, in somehow altering the rotation of a solid, very dense nickel core like exists here on Delta Sol, the variables would be too great. And the best that can be done is the equivalent of what you would call in your scientific community running simulations on what we believe may happen, and letting people in positions of power throughout your world understand our findings, understand that they are, at this point, theories, you would call them, but our theories come from technologies that are not yet readily available on this planet. And the scientific community on your planet, by the way, let me stop and say this. A very, by and large, very outstanding group of individuals. The established scientific community on this planet right now is as good as or better than has been around at any time during the history that I've been here, which is 3,500 of your Earth years, and the tens of thousands that I know about. Now, that's not to say that the technology is better than it's ever been, because it's not. Most of you understand this, that just making something smaller and faster does not necessarily make it a technological advance. Very little is done right now in controlling actual physics or understanding more about the actual physics involved in things that are going to very much interest you as a species in the coming millennia. Example, interstellar travel. Interstellar travel right now is, some would say, do they say pseudoscience or junk science? Yet others, even as I speak, are working on the equivalent of what they call a warp drive, because it was on a show on their television when they were young. But they are starting to understand that space-time is a dimension that, while tinkering with, can be very, very catastrophically dangerous. It can be manipulated to some extent in a controlled environment with the appropriate technology. Now, Locaire works now at CERN. I have been there several times over the last few years, and I have to tell you that the people there care very deeply about what they're doing. I once heard an individual in, it was a military debriefing, say, and please, when I speak of being in military debriefings, I would certainly never disclose any information that may potentially cause anyone harm. My life on your planet has been affected very much by this website called WikiLeaks, where they have published diplomatic cables obtained mainly from the United States. And the United States has its fingers in just about every other country on the globe. Every country, if you want to use the phrase one way or another. And that's the 15-minute mark.